Okay, hello, Minister Høybråten. Yeah, welcome to Shanghai Forum.
Thank you very much.
I am a president of Korea University, and also I am a board member, board director of the Korea Foundation for Advanced Studies. Actually, I got the scholarship from the foundation, and I studied in the United States. So I have a long affiliation with the Korea Foundation for Advanced Studies, and from Shanghai Forum at the outset, I got involved in what kind of thing we are going to do or something like that. Especially, we just invited a lot of opinion leaders and the world leaders and who changed the society. And you are one of the person. And I really enjoyed your morning speech, and especially the sort of superiority of the Nordic countries, and it is very admirable, and the happiest country in the world, and also very, very front-running and the future-oriented society in Nordic countries. So let me just start with this kind of things. There was an advent of fourth industrial revolution. So I just said that it is a kind of end of 20th century, enter the 21st century. It is a kind of change of human civilization. So new system, new technology, new industry, and the whole system is changing. For example, during the 20th century, it is just like an employment era. The mass production and manufacturing and the big companies, everybody is hired by the big companies or something like that. But in the 21st century, it is changing. So I may call it the end of the employment era. But somebody would raise opposition. But for Korea alone, 1960s, 70% of our population is farmers. So only the employment at the time is around 10%. But in the 20th century, the later half of the 20th century, almost every year, or in the economic development period, 500,000 new jobs were created. So everybody is now employed. But in the 21st century, because of ICT, IT, so it is broken down, and then now we become just a high unemployment rate, and college graduates are worrying about to get a job or something like that. But everybody just say that, venture company, startups, you should do that, and it is a Silicon Valley model or something like that. So how about your country and the Nordic countries, college students, and probably they have the same problem, and how adjusted to this kind of changes? That is my first question.
Well, it's a big question, and I have a strong feeling you are a much better scholar and expert in this field than I am. No. But let me give you my take on it. I think the speed is one important aspect of the changes taking place. We have, over the course of a couple of generations, seen very dramatic changes. But the drama of the current changes is really the speed of which they are taking place. And the capacity to not only to adapt, but to foresee and to really be on the top of these changes. That's the type of skill set that I think we will be looking for, and we need as countries and regions going forward. And so the implications of that for our region is a strong focus on the type of education that really give the basis for adaptation, for continuous learning, lifelong learning. It's also on the more governmental side to continue and keep up to speed as best as we can with the digitalization, and for us in the Nordic countries, we're really looking towards the opportunities in this digitalization, not only as individual states, but also as a region in Europe. This has been on the agenda in Europe for a couple of decades. But I think the region that is managed to do something about it is the one that is going to be the front runner. So you drew up the picture of the movement from mainly an agricultural economy to industrialized and then service-oriented and then IT-oriented economy. And I think from an economic historic perspective, this gives a lot of hope because we have managed. We have, in different ways, under very different circumstances. But the testimony of it all is that the human capacity to change and to adapt is enormous.
So, in that sense, a little bit optimistic. Yeah, I just agree with you. So, but the problem is, somebody who doesn't want to change, they are dragging their feet and they don't want to participate in change. Yesterday, I interviewed with Siemens chairman, Joe Kaiser, and he said that there's only one species who really want to change. Everybody doesn't want to change the present situation, but there's only one exception. I just asked, who is he? Who are they? The only one species is the baby with a wet diaper.
And it happens to be a human being.
Right. It is a joke. But anyway, the change is important. But in Europe, I got an impression that last autumn, the early December, I visited 4 Nordic universities and also the 3 Benelux universities, and I started this year. I actually founded a new consortium with 7 Nordic and Benelux universities and also 5 East Asian universities, 1 from Korea University, and 2 from China. And one is Renmin University in Beijing, and the other one is Fudan University, and very globalized. And in Japan, Waseda University, and also the Tsukuba. Tsukuba is very strong in the biology or some kind of scientific research, and they have 3 Nobel laureates already there. So we just formed these kind of things. The reason is I got an impression that Nordic students and Nordic people, they're very global and very adaptive. Even some of the students who study in my university just to try to find a job in Korea, very adaptive. So it is a very unique one. That is a good just advantage for Nordic students. And also the second thing is we are cherishing about just the elementary and the junior high and high school education is very good in Nordic countries, just like Finland. There are a lot of books are sold in Korea, the Finnish education system or something like that. So how do you evaluate the education and the college students, their attitudes and the globalization or something like that?
Well, first of all, I want to congratulate you with the new consortium. I think this kind of cooperation between universities, researchers, and eventually also student exchanges is really what we need in building a global skill set, a global base of knowledge to really meet these challenges of the rapid changes. I think Nordic universities can learn a lot from Asian universities, and hopefully it will be a balanced kind of cooperation. I think that the situation when it comes to education in the Nordic countries is generally good. but we face also some challenges. It's I think the Finnish example is well known and it's very valid and good. I think the Nordic countries have different strengths in different parts of the education system, but generally, because the Nordic countries are so ambitious in their social systems and the level of social services and rights. We need to keep the taxes on a fairly high level. And salaries are also quite high. That means it's a fairly costly society to run, no matter if you look at it from a governmental perspective or a private sector perspective. So these countries can never be low-cost countries. They can never compete on low costs. Where they really can compete is in skills, expertise, in different areas where these countries have specific comparative advantages. And I think just to focus then on research collaboration and enhancing the whole range of the education system has been and is one way of being competitive, whereas in other areas you can't.
You're right. Yeah, I got an impression that your society is very high value added. For example, in Norway, the GDP is the top level, and also even though the living cost is very high, but surely the wages are very high and also very good social system. So it is cherishable and admirable in many ways. So, for example, several years ago, he doesn't want to be called as a futurologist, but social activist, Jeremy Rifkin. He just wrote a lot of books, but one interesting book is the European Dream. America is not a final goal of the sort of a future hope, and Europe is some kind of a model for the developing countries or something like that. So European Dreams, he just wrote a number of good social systems and the education systems and the very good high skills and strength and something like that. So America, even America should follow the European model or something like that. So that was one of the reasons why I just picked Nordic countries and the Benelux countries, because for Koreans, we only know United States, and in some cases in Europe, just the UK or Germany and France, and that's it. So I just turn my eyes on the Nordic countries. They have very good just the education system and also very good universities, but the relationship is very rare, except you mentioned that the Nordic what is it? Nordic and East Asia Institute in the Copenhagen, and also the Fudan University has a Nordic Center. It is a very unique one. So I just make my faculty members and students turn their eyes on this way. So we just form some kind of Nordic fund, and if the professors want to do a joint research, or it's just like duplicate the research or something like that, and we provide a fund for that kind of things. So as a Secretary General of Nordic Council of Ministers, and there's a lot of your plans and visions, and for example, this kind of university level collaboration and research and student exchange, and up until now, not that much exposed to Nordic society to East Asian countries and East Asian countries to Nordic. So Do you have any suggestion or yeah?
Yes, well, you are mentioning actually one of the oldest parts of the Nordic cooperation in the field of education and research, the Nordic Asian Institute, which is a partner of the Nordic Council of Ministers and located in Copenhagen at the University of Copenhagen. But over the years, the Nordic countries have decided to cooperate even more closely together when it comes to research. Every country has its research fund nationally, but we have been quite successful over the last 10 years to pool together resources in the Nordic consortium or Nordic research fund called Nordforsk. With Nordforsk, there's also a possibility of collaboration with non-Nordic research organizations. So we have that as a high priority among the Nordic countries. I did want to add to your very nice words about our societies that what really is a prerequisite for keeping this kind of social model is a constant focus on reform, a constant focus on how to run these systems more efficiently, how to achieve the goals to less costs. So one of the reasons why we have been able to keep the Nordic model going is its ability to reform and the willingness by political leaders, by the parliaments to constantly reform pension systems, hospital schemes, school systems, and so on. And that there is nothing in the future picture indicating that we will have to do less of that. We will have to do more of that.
Yeah. And today's Shanghai Forum's one of the topic is the chairman Che of SK Group also mentioned that the change and innovation and the adaptation and flexibility and whatever. And it is a new era. We are facing the new era of change. So, but in that sense, you have some advantage, very flexible. Most of your countries are small, the size is small, and also very high standard of some kind of intelligence or living standards and all that kind of things. So you can just make some kind of very rational compromise in the various reform processes. But some other countries, it is very difficult to reform, and we don't have any trust to the political leaders, and but in many ways, I got an impression that your Nordic societies are very innovative. For example, somebody says that there's a problem with Nokia, but Nokia is very flexible and adaptable industry. They started from the pulp and paper industries, changed the mobile phone, and now into some other software industries or something like this. So this kind of changing, inertia or energy is very important. So we really want to learn that kind of things. It is from the just education in the very young stage, or what can we learn from your society?
Well, I think there are a few assets to our societies that does not come easy, but I think important in the context we're discussing now. The willingness to change, to innovate, to reform, needs to be built on certain level of security. I mean, we're all as human beings and as social groups and societies, we're seeking some sort of predictability in our lives. And I think the combination of social security net and the high level of participation in society and in the work life is one part of that. People dare to risk because there is a safety net there. So the chance that you fall all the way through and down is very small. But you may have to change jobs, you may have to move, you may be out of work for a while, but you don't lose everything. The other part is the keyword you gave it yourself, the keyword trust. It's shown in many studies that the level of trust in the Nordic societies are fairly high comparatively, and that is efficient in a society. When you have a high level of trust, it's efficient. You can be pragmatic.
Right.
You can adapt. If you are suspicious, if you're afraid, if you don't feel secure, then you need a lot of controls, regulations, protection, and you try to achieve that predictability other ways, which is not so efficient, more costly. And of course, this level of trust is not just something that is there by nature. It's something that you have to build, you have to earn, you have to. It's like a bank account. You deposit and then you withdraw. And I think the level of trust in the trust account is one extremely important prerequisite for what a society can achieve.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I totally agree with you. The trust, and to make this kind of trust atmosphere in a society is a very difficult one, especially for my country, Korea. We have achieved marvelous economic success and also the democratization, but we struggled very harshly for the last several decades. So they don't have shared that kind of social trust that much. So it is a very serious problem that we have to just develop from now on. Okay, let's move on a little bit more. Your work, your job. For example, as you mentioned that your great-grandfather was a doctor and did a good job in China, and also the Nordic society has taken this very seriously, the social responsibility for the whole world. And you actually do a job, the Global Alliance for Vaccines and Immunization. And what is your activities on that kind of things?
Well, on a personal note, I've been involved from I was very young with development policies, and as a Minister of Health of Norway, I was mostly focused on our national needs and policies. Then, in the more seasoned part of my life, I got the opportunity to work worldwide in order to achieve the goals of reducing child mortality in the poorest countries of the world. So I got involved with the Global Alliance that was founded in 2000 by some countries, including Norway and Bill and Melinda Gates, called GAVI, Global Alliance for Vaccines and Immunization. It's actually a collaboration of all the good forces working with immunization in the world, including the international institutions, the World Bank, WHO, and UNICEF. The private sector is a private-public partnership. And in the course of 15 years now, and I was the chair the last 5 years, we have been able to gather resources and secure vaccination for 500 million children in the poorest countries of the world, and literally saving 7 million children's lives. And I'm very happy to say that China and Korea is a part of the donors to GAVI. Now I'm no longer the chair. I'm still very engaged in this type of work. I think it's an example of the cost effectiveness of some of these tools that can really make a difference. In the course of these 15 years, the child mortality has been halved, and about 50% of that, again, is due to vaccination.
As a health minister in your country, and in that kind of advanced society or well supported by the social systems, and do you have any other health problems in your country, just like in Norway?
There are many health problems.
Oh, really?
But I think in general, in the health systems in the Western world, we have a tendency to focus all our resources and attention into treatment, the curative part. And we tend to forget how important it is with the preventive health, the public health part of it. And so when I became Minister of Health the first time, I've been 2 times, I declared myself a Minister of Public Health and the focus of preventive medicine or preventive health care as my priority number 1, which is rare and which is difficult because it's to prevent illnesses from being a problem. You actually are asking for results that are invisible. Or at least no one comes to you and say thank you that I didn't get a heart attack, I didn't get cancer. But I figured out that if you don't do something about, if you don't act on the vast knowledge telling that you can actually prevent a very high percentage of heart disease, coronary disease, cancer, and so on, by change of lifestyle. If you don't take that research seriously in politics, you're not really worthy of the job as a Minister of Health. So I took on a policy in different areas, and the most controversial one was in the area of tobacco control.
Tobacco control.
And introduced the toughest measures in tobacco control at that time that any nation had done, except for, I think, Ireland. And it was extremely controversial at the time. No one said thank you. Today it's very popular because we have seen a dramatic reduction in tobacco use, smoking. And of course we have a smoke-free environment that we didn't have before, and people love it. So now they say thank you, even for a preventive health measure.
It's your achievement.
Well, together with many others.
In Korea and in China, we still have a lot of problems of smoking, and still the tobacco price is very low. So in Korea, a lot of taxes, just on top of the tobacco, and so it is still controversial. But anyway, it is a very, very promising, and many good opinion leaders and the visionary leaders want that kind of banning the smoking, and so thanks to your something like pioneering just a policy, we are just following that. So it is very difficult to smoke in building or in restaurant and anywhere in Korea, and also the price of tobacco hikes up very rapidly. So
that's the road to take, and it will give results. I mean, if you act on a research or a knowledge base, and you have clear goals, and you're patient, and you manage to get the people rallied around it, which is also important in a democratic society, then you can really see good results. So I am a very strong defender of knowledge-based policies. Just need to mobilize around it in order to also to get it to work.
Yeah, very good. Okay, we are running out of time. I just want to ask still, because I am president of a university, I'm still interested in the youngsters and something like that. The innovation, we are just talking about innovation, it comes with entrepreneurship. And they need to be more independent, and they need to just find their way for the future. So when I start my job last year, I just put some kind of motto that is pioneering intellectual. I just raise up the pioneering intellectual because Chinese children and Korean children as well, the Asian children, they are very dependent on their parents. And the parents monitoring everything. So we just call the helicopter mom. And hovering around, even in colleges, oh, you should take this, this just a course, and even in the business sectors, enter the company, and they just call the employer, and my son and my daughter is such and such a person, and please take care of her or him or something like that. So it is nonsense. But in Norwegian or the Nordic, youngsters are a little bit different. And what do you evaluate, and also what can you give us some advice for that kind of things?
Well, I think we have a lot to learn from you. I mean, the economic wonders you have performed over the last decades is incomparable to anything.
Yeah, but
and I think you have very hardworking students, very hardworking students. I think that what we're trying to do is to introduce this entrepreneurship kind of thinking very early, in the early stages of the education system. We try to give the young people an experience in the work life in general, but also in entrepreneurship more specifically. And I think these programs are very highly evaluated. I think we could do more of it. And especially in the light of your introduction to this interview, where we are going as a global economy, we'll need these kind of skill set, this kind of thinking that I can really do it. I can take my resources and I can join in with some other resources, and I can create a platform for producing something. So yes, we're doing a lot of that. I think we could do more, and I think it's something that the future will demand.
So in conclusion, I'd like to propose the in-depth collaboration between Nordic countries and the East Asian countries. We just can make some kind of synergy effect. For example, we are very hardworking and very diligent, and they're well trained in many ways. But we are not independent and compared to Nordic youngsters. So, and also we have just the size of the population, and also just like K-pop and K-culture, Korean cultures are in these days, very popular in the world, just drama and music or something like that. So some of the Nordic students and the European students come to my university, they really enjoy that kind of life. And also we already have the 24-hour society, very future-oriented society, and something like that. So we can share these kind of things, and we learn from your society, just like a good social system, and also the entrepreneurship and innovative, just the orientation and flexibility, and the future orientation or something like that. It will be a very good collaboration between Nordic countries and the East Asian societies. The Japan and Korea and China is similar in that way in education systems and the younger generation, and they are afraid of facing the future, and they have to work very hard, the Chinese students as well. So we have achieved a marvelous economic success for a certain period, but speed is very important. But just on top of this kind of achievement, we don't know where to go. So we should learn from the Nordic society. And also Nordic society, you really want to have a better, greater expansion of the global world. In that case, come to China or come to Korea or Japan and experience some new world, and we can just make a better future. So it is my proposal and suggestion, and from now on we just keep in touch and develop that kind of things.
Well, thank you very much for that invitation and that appeal. I think you yourself have taken an initiative and succeeded with that initiative to build this network of Nordic and Asian universities, which we will follow with great interest. I think you're quite right. There are clear advantages, comparative advantages between our different parts of the world, and I strongly believe that our academic people and students will benefit from a greater exchange. So let's set out to do more of that.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for your valuable time and good discussion and the insight for ideas.